Okay, so before we get started, I had a whole video basically telling you all about what was going on, why I ended up dropping my college algebra course, how I was not seeing eye to eye with the teacher, how I didn't get the actual start as far as the allotted time, the additional time that I eventually was granted, but only one day after the test had already happened. And once the test happened, the teacher pretended like she cared, and instead of saying, hey, you didn't get the time and you were granted it, I'll let you make up this test. Instead, she just went in and she took additional points from me because she said I turned in my work about 6 or 7 minutes late, that she gave me no credit past number 9. And I'm like, I already had didn't get the allotted time. Plus I was working on other scrap paper, not just the scrap paper I had to turn in. And I was frustrated, things was getting confusing, but I for sure know that I turned in the scrap work within that 20 minutes. And she thought I would take her word for it, but I knew for a fact that I turned it in. And she waited till I sent her like a screenshot of the time that on my computer that I scanned it, which, it showed in her system that 2 minutes after I scanned it, I turned it in, but she never showed me proof that of the time the test stopped, so that I can say, okay, this was greater than 20 minutes afterwards. When I asked her for the proof, she just gave me a number after I had already showed her the scan work. So I knew she had it out for me because she didn't want those accommodations for me. I don't know what she thought it was. She might have thought it was unfair or whatever like that, but I don't have to share, the exact medical diagnosis or anything else like that with anybody, including her. But I was letting her know some of the side effects and symptoms I was going through, and she, nothing. She's like, oh, well, if you miss 3 days, that's a lot, was her response. And I'm just being honest. To miss 3 days, that's a lot. But I'm like, if you're going through issues, why don't you say, hey, I can give you some work to make this up since you were sick, But anyway, she pretended like she cared, but she never did one thing to show she cared. She only said she cared. And my mom's a college professor. I know what they can do. I know they can give you additional work to make up stuff. So she could have gave me additional work to make up that test. She could have gave me that test over again and gave me my allotted time that I needed to do it. Because I know that with the additional time, I would have got an A on there. So since she pretended, she was a Karen, and she pretended to care, I didn't want to barely pass a class. Or averagely pass the class with a C. Not for things that I enjoy and I know that I can do. The math I can do. I wanted to pass the class with an A. And because I couldn't do that, I made sure that I withdrew, because her giving me a 20-something% because she took additional points, and, not offering for me to make it up because I didn't get the time that I needed, or give something to make up those that 15%. I knew it was impossible to make an A in her class. And I'm like, you're not about to waste my time. I'm graduating with a 4.0 grade point average, and I'm not about to let some ugly ass Karen mess that up for me, because I have conditions and things that's out of my control that I would get accommodations for with no problem. Just the accommodations, people were sick with COVID. But anyway, let's go ahead and do this problem, y'all, because I can go off for an hour. I had a whole video going off on her for an hour. I put it on my other social media account that I got over 1,000, so they can roast the dog shit out of her ass. All right. I was like, I'm going to leave this one to the math, but I just want to fill you all in. I still have all the math work. I paid for it. I printed out everything I possibly can. I recorded all the videos that I possibly can. I got all of the material that I possibly can because I paid for it. So I still will be doing these math problems with you. I will still be learning all this math material. And then when I get into the class, I'm going to coast through that motherfucker, and I'm going to guarantee myself that I'm going to get an A. Okay? So I'll still be doing the learning. All right. Trying to mess up my 4.0 grade point average. I'll slap the dog shit out somebody. Lord. All right. We have x to the 4th power minus 2x squared minus 15 equals 0, okay? In order to do this problem, what we really want to do is we really want to turn this equation into a quadratic equation and put it in a quadratic form. It's not very difficult. You might be saying, how in the world can we do this? Well, we can turn x to the 4th power to, let's say, s. And there's a common squared, and there's a common squared here. There's x squared here, and there's an x squared that you can divide this by 2 to get to that x squared. So we can say s equals x squared. Okay? While saying s equals x squared, you can call it s w y z k j k l m n o p. Call it whatever you want. But while you're saying s equals x squared, you can now take everything that's x squared that's within the original equation and turn it into s. So we can say x, actually it's no longer x, it's going to be s squared minus 2s minus 15 equals 0. See what I did there? There's an x squared up there with that 2. It's an s now. You are s now. You got an s on your chest and you're doing your best. It's an s now. Okay? Now it is in quadratic form. Now all we're left to do is to factor. Super easy. Why do you have that squared there? Because there's a 4 there. I just took x squared out of the 4 and it left me 2. So we still have a 2 there. If it was a common factor of maybe, I would say 3x to the 3rd power and then x to the 5th, and I would have taken x cubed. So I'll say to the 3rd power. Same thing, x cubed out. Okay? All right. So s squared would be s and s. Okay? 15. We got to find 2 that when the outside is multiplied and then the inside numbers are multiplied, that it will equal -2. And I'll explain it in well detail in a second. Those 2 numbers is going to be 5 and 3. We're trying to get to -2 from 15. That number is going to be -5 plus 3. Okay? You see what I did there? -5 plus 3 gives you -2. That's how we got that. See? Not that hard. Somebody's saying, dang, my teacher didn't tell me that. I'm telling y'all, these teachers don't break nothing down. They think you should already know it. All right. After this, we're going to take it to a 0 factor because it's still equal to 0. We're going to say s plus 3 equals 0. S minus 5 equals 0. All we're going to do is we're going to minus 3 here to get that s alone. And that's going to give us -3. We're going to plus 5 here to get that 5 alone. And that's going to give us plus 5. But we're not done yet. I want you to, after you do that and you find your -3 and your 5, what I want you to do is I want you to turn this half of your equation back. So I'm asking you to do this in this order because I want you to kind of grasp what you got going on. I want you to turn that s back to x squared. And you'll get x squared equals -3. X squared equals 5. Okay, let me ask you a question. Is that x alone, or is there something else in front of that x or behind that x doing something to that x? Huh? It is. There's a squared right here. I guess behind the x. Behind the x. So because this squared is behind the x, we have to get rid of it. How do you get rid of a square of this exponent? I'm calling it a square. It's all squared. I don't know why they put the terms so close together. How you get rid of this exponent? Huh? I'm gonna tell you how you get rid of that exponent. To get rid of this exponent, you just root the other side. And that cancels out your exponent there, your 2. You're still not done, my friends. Anytime that you root something and there is a negative number in the inside, it's irrational. It's an irrational fraction. So in reality, this one here is going to actually be equal to, that may be too close to that color, y'all. It's going to actually be equal to plus or minus I to the negative 3. And this one will also be equal to plus or minus 5. Don't forget the plus or minus, because the plus or minus is a part of the equation. You have to have that plus or minus there. That's a part of the formula. Your formula, it's a part of your formula, your quadratic formula. So plus or minus is already built into it. So your answer is going to be plus or minus I, and I put the negative number there, didn't I? That's not a smart thing. Plus or minus I to the square root of 3 plus or minus 5 squared. And that's it. And I can put the answer right here at the top, because if you stayed and got it this far, you're a trooper. So your answer is plus or minus I and 3 and plus or minus 5. Remember, I is just like saying a negative number, just like I squared is like saying negative 1. All right, so that will be about it. Thank you all for tuning in.